Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Everything Jake podcast. Today I am joined by Pete Feurtado, Pete Jr. of Big Pete's Treats, and big part of my life, my career, my professional development, my business, this stellar gentleman right here. And so welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me, man. We've been talking about doing this for a while now.
I know. Yeah, we our talks are always, we always have podcast worthy talks, I feel, and so it's good to finally sit down and in a studio and get to share that with some folks.
No doubt.
Yeah. It all started at a coffee shop.
Yeah. Coffeetopia.
Coffeetopia out there on Capitola. And it was right when I was starting my business. Mm-hmm. I had finished my degree. I was done with school. And I was just building up what I was going to do. And you guys were pretty young at that point, too.
Absolutely.
And I remember at that point I was doing social media for different brands, mm-hmm. and you guys were doing social media, and so we first started talking about how that was going, strategies for doing that, and then mm-hmm. pretty soon I jumped on board, started creating some content with you guys.
Yeah. No, I was hoping you were going to bring up that story, or I was going to bring it up. So it's funny you led with it, right?
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, no, I think as I think back on that, right, and I think you had an interesting approach, right, where it was kind of like, I'm pretty sure you said, hey, Pete, let me do a couple posts, you know, and look, you know, whatever, 6, 8, 10 years later, whatever it was, you know, we're still working together, right? So I think for anybody, that's kind of a test and learn situation. I know with our business, that's a lot of the things that we like to try is, like, we call it test and learn. And you know, I think that was a perfect example of you know, if you would have came at us and said, hey, I needed this budget on day one, it probably would have been hard for us to kind of make that leap of faith. But since you kind of said, hey, let me do a couple posts, and we liked it, and we was like, hey, this brings real value, and we went on from there.
Nice. And yeah, exactly, that's what I think. You know, if you're a young creator and you're looking to work with a brand, first of all, look to where you can add value. Mm-hmm. You know, look for that personal relationship. If you can talk to a person face to face, that's going to make a big difference. But look for a content feed that feels like you could do something good in that feed. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't try to just pitch some vision that you might have. Like, actually see, okay, this is kind of like what I do. I could fit into this. Mm-hmm. And if you can add value, then, you know, people will appreciate value. You know, building a brand is a big task. Mm-hmm. And so when you get people who can add value to it, and they're not asking for too much, and you can grow together, it's a good way to start out.
No doubt. No, and you obviously you can't let it go too far, right? I think a lot of artists probably, you know, get taken advantage of in similar situations, right? But I think a couple posts never hurt anybody, right? But now, you know, I think some artists do kind of get in that maybe right, where they do everything for free for too long, right?
For sure, absolutely. No, that's an important thing too, is you got to know your value.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing, is like not overthinking not thinking it's more or less than what it is, so you can ask for an actual rate that matches the value of what you're offering. So then you can have a long-term relationship, because you know, okay, I can consistently contribute this amount of value. It's going to be worth this amount of money. So if you get those numbers to match up, then it's game on, right? And if that doesn't work for either end, if you haven't hit that sweet spot for either end, it's not going to work long term.
Exactly.
Because if you're doing it for free, eventually you'll run out.
Yeah. So the other thing we were joking about was, Jake's 21 question game.
That's right.
I told my sister yesterday I was coming on Jake's podcast, and she goes, "Oh shit, get ready for 21 questions."
I was thinking, oh, we should get Big Pete and Katie on here too.
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah.
They should, but then at the same time, they always get badgered by my questions.
Yeah. No, that would be fun though.
Well, because I'm curious though, and the thing is, it's like to know how to market a brand, you got to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where working with you has been really beneficial, and I think it shows great leadership from a brand that has grown over the years and gotten bigger. That communication for a leader is key.
Mm-hmm.
And so engaging with those questions and wanting to think
mm-hmm.
is really important, and so I've always appreciated that about you, that you're always you're a gamer. It's like game on. It's like, okay, this is an idea game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what we think.
Yep. And I think that was our connection right away, right? It was just you asking questions and I think that's how you learn, and answering the questions, asking questions, listening, and kind of taking it all in. And so I love it. Yeah, it's fun for me, right?
I know, exactly. Yeah. And so that's always the best, is because when you both can see the value in the conversation and the ideas that it could create, because really you have to have an understanding of the whole scene. Like, as you get higher levels in business in this, you see a bigger picture, and you better be learning all along the way. Like,
mm-hmm.
you got to build off of sound fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I feel like it's been a real honor and a privilege to grow with you guys as well, because I've had time to learn about mm-hmm. business and about you guys as we've both grown.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great strategy too for young brands. Work with young creators who you have good dialogue with, mm-hmm. and that you'll both learn together, because everything is constantly changing. Mm-hmm. Like, looking back on those early years and like how important it was, all the process of legalization and the loopholes that we had to go through, that you guys navigated through, and how the industry completely changed. Mm-hmm. So you have to keep asking questions, you have to keep having dialogue, and you got to keep coming up with good ideas.
Yeah, no doubt. And I say it all the time, right? It was just exactly what you just said there when I'm talking to people about our business or whoever it may be. We were lucky to start, in 2010, when you just had to kind of go for it, right? And we were lucky to be able to slowly grow and learn business and learn, and kind of get ready for legalization when things were, blew up kind of overnight, where, hey, now all of a sudden anyone 21 or over can go buy cookies or go buy cannabis at the store, where before, you had to get the medical card and you had to do all this stuff. So we were lucky to start back then, and I think if we were starting today, it would be impossible for us to do what we've accomplished up to this point.
I know. I was going to ask you that question, but it will sound like hard for young people who want to get into the space to understand, but I was going to ask you what your advice would be to somebody trying to start a cannabis brand today. Because I know your advice would be, don't do it.
Yeah, basically. No, I mean, it would be, have your shit together. Whether, have your have some capital. You would have to have a good amount of money, or just a good business plan in general, right? Whatever that is. So that's you're not gonna have a lot of room for mistakes. You're gonna have to be well funded, so that way you can just kind of lose money those first couple of years just to get on the shelves, so
be prepared to lose money.
Be prepared, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's everyone thinks
not just to not make money, but to lose money.
Yeah, absolutely. If you were starting out a brand today, yeah, and I think it's like that for a lot of businesses. The first couple of years, it's
Sure.
tough, but especially in the cannabis industry, just the regulation, the testing rules, right? If you're going to make a batch of cookies and you were just starting out, well, you got to get that tested, right? And that's probably about $750 right there, just for a batch of cookies. So you have major benefits the more scale you have, because it costs $750 whether you make 20,000 cookies or 1,000 cookies, right? So scale is kind of the name of the game, and we still are at a small scale, everybody in the cannabis industry, but growing.
Yeah. Well, now what do you mean by that? What is a small scale? How do you gauge what? That's part of what I want to try to understand. The view that you're seeing now is like this more of a macro view of the industry, and so. How do you gauge, what's the right size? Like, you guys have grown significantly.
Yeah.
How do you know how big is the sweet spot for you guys to be?
Well, I don't know. We're pretty, have big expectations, big hopes.
Yeah.
Right. So we always want to be growing.
Yeah.
I think just in business in general, you always want to be growing, but not necessarily growth at all costs, right? So it is a fine line, right? For us, the growth is going to come from going to other states, and in California, the growth will come from product innovation through other form factors, right? But really, that's what we're working on right now for the future is expanding into other states, right? And product development here in California.
Nice. And so being that the legalization has occurred in states kind of slowly too, do you think that's advantageous, or what if they flip the switch and it all goes legal? Is that going to make it more challenging? What do you think? I
mean, it's hard to say, right? It depends on what the rules and regulations are. I think when it does go legal, more the big boys will come in. For us, it's we're trying to be a brand that when the big boys come in, they want to come in and buy us, right? I mean, as opposed to trying to compete with Budweiser or whatever when they come in. So that's why it's important to grow, right? Because they're not going to want to see a company, they're the leader in California, but hey, you got to expand into these other states and show. And you can see, like, it was Wana, which is an edible company out of Colorado. They've done a really good job expanding into other states, and they just got a check for $300 million upfront payment, and and there's more on the back end, but that's just from one of the bigger players, Canopy, which is backed by Constellation, which is Corona and a big alcohol company. So it's going to be tough to compete with the big guys. So I so.
Well, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about is this is the big leagues of cannabis. Right? There's not like another level to get to. I mean, everyone is trying to get to the next level. There's nobody there yet, really. And so part of the thing that I'm curious about, or wanting to work on and thinking about, is how to maintain authenticity as you grow that big. And I think it's like, like some of the people that we work with, I feel like are the best examples of that, and growing along with them as well is very informative, learning a lot. Like, for example, being associated with Be Real, who to me kind of stands for authenticity. That's his name, right? That's what he chose to stand behind, and that's what he's always been. And so that's somebody who you can trust as they go global, right? As it goes national and then bigger.
Mm-hmm.
You know that brand name is going to mean something because the culture that's built up around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's where Big Pizza is positioned as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm just curious as to.
Yeah. No, for authenticity, right? For us, that comes easy, right? Because this started in my dad's kitchen, in the grassroots. We were growing cannabis up in the Santa Cruz Mountains. We had trim back in those days, right? I mean, people were throwing trim away, right? It was kind of like, okay, make hash. Oh, hey, we can make butter. So for us, authenticity is a big part of what we do, and it's not because I don't think you can try to be authentic, right? You can't have meetings in a lot of these bigger cannabis companies. They have meetings. How do we become authentic? Well, okay, there you go. You're done right there. So we don't have meetings on how to be authentic. It's just our lifestyle. This is what we've done. So it comes easy for us.
For sure.
Yeah.
And if anything, well, it's more like that's been the beauty of the slow growth of the business as well, is because it is authentic. And so what had to evolve was dealing with business, learning business, getting better at business, and the actual core of the culture never changed. I'm still working with all kinds of the same people and just being a part of Santa Cruz culture and seeing things that we started out that then developed into bigger things like the beach cleanups, and you see like other brands, other people do it as well, and you really can see like every move you make as a brand, you're putting stuff out in the public, you're sharing ideas, and other people are going to attempt to replicate it, and you see copycat brands that pop up and fall away, all these efforts to.
Yeah, and I think growing up in Santa Cruz too, right? Santa Cruz was always kind of known as a place where, hey, you know what? You can get stoned and no one's really going to hassle you, We used to go down to Westcliff and roll one up and just smoke out down there, right? And it was just kind of like, hey, this is Santa Cruz. This is what we can do. I don't know if it's really still like that or not. I don't know. I feel like it's changed a little bit, I think with legalization and kind of all of that, right? Where before legalization in the medical days, Santa Cruz was the mecca. I mean, you had all kinds of farms in the hills. You had all kinds of products being made in Santa Cruz. And I think a lot of people got left out of the regulated market when legalization happened, right? Which is totally backwards, and kind of the Santa Cruz County didn't make it easy for anybody to operate, especially on the cultivation side. They made it very difficult for a lot of the legacy growers to operate in the mountains, and sure enough, I mean, from a business perspective, I always kind of was saying, my dad would say back pre-legalization, oh yeah, let's buy a piece of land up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and I'd say, dude, first of all, we can buy the trim, right, to make our butter for cheaper than we can operate a farm, and if you're gonna buy land, aren't you gonna move out to Salinas Valley and buy flat land, right? Are you gonna want to, kill yourself in the Santa Cruz Mountains? So part of it was regulatory, and part of it is, hey, in the regulated industry, hey, we're going to start doing this on flat land and in greenhouses, and sure enough, those are the big farms, right, down in Salinas Valley or down in Santa Barbara. There's just massive greenhouses.
That's kind of the part of the strategy of projecting into the future is, once legal barriers are lifted, where does the industry move? How does it go? And then, we're just seeing it all unfold. So,
right. And so, in the cannabis industry this year, yesterday, there was a deal announced with Urban Leaf and Harborside, which are two of the bigger retailers in the state, where they merged. Right. So this year. This year, next year, the next few years, I'm sure, is going to be consolidation, right? Where people coming together, right? So just across the board, I think you're going to see a lot of that. I'm not saying that's going to happen with us, but you definitely having those conversations, and figuring out that strategy for how to weather kind of the storm and how to grow and how to become a leader across the nation, really.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think that's part of kind of a natural process of scaling up too, is teaming up, right?
Yeah, teaming up, exactly.
Because other brands have done their slow growth process in their region, and so they're going to have more of a inside knowledge of what people like there, what it's like to be there.
And where are their synergies?
Yeah.
Right? Can you combine with another edible company, let's just say, and all of a sudden, look, we all have high overhead. We all, like, every standalone edible company is paying rent and insurance and all their kind of fixed costs and overhead, right? And so I think that's where a lot of companies are struggling is with overhead, for a standalone cookie company, for instance, right? So it's kind of a combination of that. Hey, okay, growth, synergies, all of the above.
Now, this is something I've never, through all the years of question, I've never really quite been able to understand, but it's something I've always noticed in you, is your uncanny instinct for business opportunity, and that you look for synergies, like you said, and for the deals that are actually good deals. How do you, is that something that is it just instinct with you, or do you try, like, as you've had more responsibilities, have you developed that more, or is that just second nature to you, do you think?
Yeah, it sort of is like a natural kind of entrepreneurial spirit, I guess, but definitely you learn too. You have to learn, I think, but definitely, like, I didn't, when I was, growing up, when I was in high school, when I was in college, I didn't know what I was going to do, and I didn't think, wasn't thinking like a business, like that I was going to open up all these businesses, or I was, or anything like that. It just kind of happened naturally, and so yeah, I think it is kind of both, but super lucky that my dad really kind of went for it in the early years, and because back then it was, I graduated college 2010, and it was kind of a rough time to be graduating college, right? Where everyone told you, go to college, you're going to come out, you're going to get a good job, you're going to do this, you're going to, and there wasn't
2008 sunk every ship,
sunk everything. So it wasn't like I could have got out of college and gone and got a good job right away necessarily, right? I had to work some rough jobs, but really I got into Big Pete's Treats and helping kind of just develop that and grow that.
That's such a good point. It's such a cool story, because that's kind of partly why I think there's so much heart and soul to the business too, is because your dad formed it in some way because he understood the lack of opportunities, and so it's like, okay, well, we're going to create opportunities.
Yep, that was a big part of it. Hey, I want a job for my kids.
Yeah,
like he said that.
And having a family business then means you get to spend more time with your family.
Yeah.
And you get to see how they grow and see them develop and be there for those relationships and the connections that are made, which is awesome, And it's like so many of the things that we have done over the years for business have also just been like wildly fun vacations, dream little situations that you could never even get into if you weren't a business.
Right.
Where you're meeting people who, like, meeting Be Real. For example, like, one of the first people who I listened to when I was beginning to smoke weed. Very common story for a lot of people.
No doubt.
And now we're making cookies for them. That's insane.
Yeah.
But when did you know that you had a love for business? Because you do, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, probably right away, right when we started this, and I just kind of got in there, and it started out where I was making the cookies, right? But it was me and Big Pete, my dad, and his girlfriend Jody, and it was kind of just, I kind of just took over, sort of, right? Like, not in a bad way, but just kind of like, here's what we need to do, what do you guys think, right? And kind of just collab like that, pretty much from day one. That's how it was. Where when we were working on the farm and we were doing, because it started like that, right? We'd make the cookies, we'd make the butter, we'd deliver it, we'd do it all. It's not like we had a bunch of people working for us or anything like that. And I think like at the farm level, I really like needed to learn as far as, hey, how much water do I give the plants? What do I need to do here? That didn't necessarily come natural. I learned it and
got good at it.
But I think more on the business side, it was just kind of natural. You just kind of know what to do. There you go.
Yeah, more instinctual.
So it's more instinctual, but I think you definitely have to learn. If you don't learn, and there's no better way to learn than actually doing it.
Absolutely. But it's not everyone who steps into that role is going to love it. And that's something something I've never had any question about with you, is that you actually enjoy the business.
It's fun for me.
Yeah.
It is.
You
it's
like
fun
tracking things and watching how they change and
I don't know. It's
wins and
business is just fun.
Yeah.
Having the conversations, even like today, or just talking business.
Yeah.
Or watching the stock channel on TV and looking at how bigger businesses are doing it.
Gives you a different perspective on all of that too, right?
Yeah.
Like you see it all of a sudden as like a player in the game.
It's fun for me. I mean,
yeah,
and I think where and that's,
I love it.
that's
need
good.
That. You
that's
need
good,
that,
right? For sure. Because
first of all,
sometimes, but and I will say in business, and my uncle told me this, and I kind of looked at it. Oh yeah, right. Oh, I'm good. I don't ever deal with that. But he goes, sometimes as an entrepreneur, sometimes it feels like sometimes it's great, everything's good, and then the next day, everything can come crashing down. It feels like nothing can go right, and so you definitely deal with all that, where it's like the ebbs and flows, and today it's all good and we're killing it and things are fun, and then it's a week full of fixing issues and problems and just the bullshit, right? But it's but I think that's part of it, and you just have to kind of, but it always, if you just kind of
keeps getting better,
it gets better, or
because you have, the thing too, I think, is that you have more experience, so you have more of the good times backing you up, so that like whatever is going wrong, you can start. And partly it's just the mentality of like how you started. Like there's situations where people don't understand business as well, and you can step in and provide value. So in any given, like, you could drop you down in a totally different culture and you could start a business pretty much just by seeing how things go, and then inserting yourself into the flow of how things go and improving it a little bit. So if you see things as a business, then even when things are going wrong, that fundamentally you can provide value. Therefore, this is just a temporary setback in a larger value providing scheme.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always looking at that, right? Like, whatever it is. If you're traveling or you see something, or it's always like, oh, that could be a business.
Exactly. If your mind is always searching for those opportunities, they come.
So that definitely is like things that we always talk about, right? Or just when we're talking, or like when I was trying to talk to some of my friends, because they love to gamble on sports, and that's one of the things I don't love to gamble. I mean, I like it a little bit, but I always lose, so I never really got into it. But there's kind of this wave, similar to the cannabis industry, of gambling and becoming legal. And so I was trying to ask my friends, like, that are like degenerate gamblers, how can we make money off this new business? And I've learned in the cannabis industry, hey, the people that made the most money are the people selling the picks and shovels, like in the gold rush. What are the picks and shovels for gambling? So I'm trying to figure it out. I don't really know yet, right? But and then no one really could tell me. I mean, now you could kind of sell picks and things like that, subscription picks. Really do the research on the teams that you think are going to win. But I still, I don't know. I'm kind of looking for answers on what are the picks and shovels for gambling, because I think they're probably going to legalize it, in California at some point, or And I don't know, is that another industry that you can get on the ground floor of the legal sports betting industry?
Exactly, and see, that openness to opportunity is what I'm talking about. Because somebody's going to figure it out.
Right.
And just seeing, new things, that I feel like is one of the, if you don't have that as an instinct, that's a habit to develop, is get used to there being new things keep coming, and some of them are going to hang around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Just like with social media, right?
You're right.
That was something that just popped up, and
Mm-hmm.
Each time a new one pops up, it's like we don't want to take it seriously, but then some of them end up being very powerful tools of business.
No doubt.
So you have to kind of pay attention,
Mm-hmm.
and listen to different podcasts. Or are you listening to any stuff these days?
I mean, the standard, the gold standard of podcasting, right? The Joe Rogan, I listened to his podcast the other day with Jocko, which was a good one. I always enjoy those guys. That's I listen to that. Mostly like kind of comedy type of podcasts. Is mostly what I listen to.
Oh yeah. See, that's classic too, because you like comedy.
Yeah.
There's so many different sides to you that I think are funny, like the Cousin Eddie.
Right. Well, that's a family kind of
inside joke.
That's kind of just a family joke,
Yeah.
That was just one of the movies we watched growing up, right? The vacation movies and
Chevy Chase, man.
And Chevy, right? And it's just classic Christmas movies around the holidays, and classic family movies. And Cousin Eddie, right? He's kind of a family inside joke where, somebody came over for Christmas one year, and we were and he was just sort of rude and kind of a jackass, and it was kind of a random person, and they ended up showing up a couple years in a row, and so we nicknamed him kind of Cousin Eddie, and and so now it's Cousin Eddie. Everybody's a Cousin Eddie, right? My cousin Mark, we call him Cousin Eddie, right? And just because he's just like one of the most classic characters.
So funny. Now, what about? I know you went and saw Schultz.
Yeah, Schultz. Yeah, I listened to Schultz's podcast.
How was the show?
Oh, he was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was fun, right? It was good to get out in the city, and parking was an issue, but we got there, and it was fun, right? It's always fun, kind of getting back to normalcy, right? Going
doing things,
getting back to normalcy. Vegas for the convention was was like that. So yeah.
What was the buzz like in Vegas this year?
It was a good time. I mean, I kept it pretty mellow, right? But Vegas for the cannabis convention, it's always a good time. It's mostly, I don't even really go to the shows anymore. It's mostly just kind of having meetings and networking, and it's just, if you're in the cannabis industry, that's kind of the one place where you can go where everybody's there, from investors to retailers to other brands, and so you kind of just go and meet with folks and network and go out to dinners. And what was the buzz like? Kind of the same, kind of California. It's been kind of a slow year, in the cannabis industry. It's kind of been this, when COVID first happened, we all just had a huge spike. It was great. Business was great. Like, we killed it the year 2020. But 2021's kind of been not as good, and that's really kind of across the board, from the retailers to the brands and the products, and it has to do with a lot of different issues, right? And the one I go to is kind of like, hey, look at San Francisco and Oakland right now. Like, those are good markets. Those were some of the best markets in the cannabis industry. Well, if you've been there, it's not like that anymore. It's like, San Francisco, I grew up going there. It's hustle bustle. There's thousands of people walking around. It's always just thriving, and you've kind of it hasn't recovered or come anywhere near recovery from the COVID epidemic. So you have big cities. Then like an area like Santa Cruz, you wouldn't really even know.
No, yeah.
A small town like Santa Cruz, you're not gonna like even really know. I mean, there's still kind of people going to the stores, and maybe it's down a little, maybe it's up a little, I don't know, but you don't really notice. San Diego, you don't really notice. LA got hit pretty hard. I think they're probably a little further along the recovery. I think maybe just LA is so big, it's hard to really say. But so you have some of that where just different areas have been hit hard. Big markets that used to be our best market, like San Francisco's, down a little bit just overall. So that was kind of the vibe, is kind of like, hey, what's
going on?
Hey, it's kind of we got to weather the storm here. It's going to get better, but hey, what's the consolidation look like? The synergies, is there moves we can make to weather the storm easier? That was kind of the vibe.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because it is an industry that, because of legalization, it's not like a natural flow of the market.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for people to really gauge exactly where things are heading, how to prepare.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Anyone that tells you, oh yeah, here's my 3-year forecast, bullshit.
Yeah.
Because nobody can.
I mean, I really feel like being in business in the cannabis industry is like backpacking with rocks.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
You're training at all
hard.
times
Mm-hmm.
with things that make it way harder than regular business.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair to say. I think when we first started, it wasn't necessarily like that. Oh, you'd have rule changes, or even worse, your best top account would get raided by the cops. That happened so many times.
Yeah, so no orders went out.
All of
a sudden your demand
right.
fluctuates.
Right,
based
or
on things
San
that
Jose,
are outside of the market's control.
Right, or in 2000, I think it was 17 or 16, San Jose went from 150 stores, and then the city came in and said they zoned them out of like every location. And they said, okay, we're going to turn these, because they had no rules. So 150 stores opened up overnight. It was thriving. It was going off. It was awesome. And then they kind of said, nope, you're going to have to move to these locations. This is where it's going to be legal. So naturally, some of the people came together to build bigger stores. And now there's like 20 stores. There used to be close to 200 stores in San Jose. Now there's 20. Now they're all 20 pretty big stores. But it was probably better when there was 150, right? And they were everywhere. They were next to Starbucks. Now they're mostly in industrial areas. There's some good locations, but mostly in industrial areas. But like so we had to deal with issues like that but at the beginning it was kind of like, hey, the economy was bad. A lot of my friends were making a lot of money in the cannabis industry, because and then you kind of had like the getting ready for legalization. You had legalization. It seemed like the rules change every week, so those are kind of the hurdles as far as what you're talking about.
Yeah, and just that you don't. Yeah, but so I feel like now, hopefully, as things get bigger, it'll be more stable.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like part of the business strategy is you have to be responsive. You have to be a little bit limber, flexible, able to make reductions, expanding quickly, and just kind of penciling in a lot of things because things are subject to change.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that's part of what I think makes it challenging, is that, like you said, you can't make a 5-year plan.
Yeah, it's tough.
And so,
right. I mean, we can plan out and say, hey, look, here's we want to go into these states. We want to go here, right? But then at the same time, you're relying on your partner in those other states, right? And you live and die by your partner in those states. What happens when they, run out of employees, or they can't make your products because they don't have enough weed or whatever, right?
Any number of factors.
Any number of factors. So yeah, you got to be nimble. You got to be ready to pivot on a dime. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's part of what will make you even better, when you have, a bigger, stable field to look at. Like, say, 5-10 years from now, if it's all legal and the economy kind of grows into a place where the parts of the border filled in, at that point, it'll be interesting to see,
I think so.
Yeah. Because then, right now, the dreams are big. The dreams are huge. But right now, it's about filling in the space. And then once that space is filled in and that ecosystem exists, right? Because that's what we're doing right now, is we're building up the industry. The whole ecosystem of what cannabis will be is coming into being right now. Once it fully exists, then we'll see how it evolves.
Yeah, and I think it'll be like a normal kind of consumer packaged goods company, right? Where, right now it's backwards, right? You have to, okay, if we want to make cookies in Arizona, we got to set up a kitchen and a factory in Arizona, or have a partner that has a factory in Arizona. It would be nice to have,
as far as quality control goes and all those things.
Now there's a whole nother list of quality control and making sure that the cookies are the same in Santa Cruz, Arizona, New York, so on. So, whereas, hey, it would be nice if you had a couple kitchens maybe, or one kitchen in California and you just shipped everything everywhere, or you had one kitchen in the Midwest, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and it just shipped them out everywhere. Like a normal consumer packaged goods company, that would be nice. Like we would have a really great business at that point. It'd be easy.
That's what I'm saying. It'd make it so much easier.
Yeah.
And so that's why I feel like all the people in the industry who are doing all that work are training, and they're going to be just rock stars when they have the ability to do all that. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about on the subject of rock stars is one of the things I think that you do really well as a CEO, as a leader of a brand, is the way you've worked with influencers. And I kind of wanted to tap into what your strategy has been with that. It's maybe some of the history of, when it started, like.
Well, I mean, and I'm, I'll, like you're talking about like Burner and Be Real and those guys, or
yeah, but even smaller people.
Yeah.
Like, who was the first influencer?
I think for us, we've never really had paid for influencers, right?
Yeah.
So I think we always get, because we're a family business, we're a mom and pop business. I mean, it's not like we have this huge budget to go out and pay, Kim Kardashian to do an Instagram post.
No.
So it's kind of about, hey, finding people that love the product first.
Yeah.
And then it just comes easy from there, right? So if someone really likes the product, then you just give them some cookies and they can influence like that. And then, but when you talk about more of the celebrities, yeah, it's amazing. You were talking about it earlier, like the cookie currency, the rooms that we've been able to get into.
And invite people into our rooms.
Yeah, exactly. It is kind of crazy. I mean, it is like,
it's totally crazy.
And you've seen it, right? And just whatever it is, but kind of talking about like the cookies brand, and we make them a cookie line of cookies, and that kind of goes back to just being around at some of the events, the Emerald Cup, and back in the day, and just telling Burner, hey man, if you ever want to make a cookie, talk to us. And he would, in Burner, it was always just super down to earth, and all right man, okay. And then finally one day, we got an email from one of his guys, and so then we made it happen. Same thing with Be Real. It's like he reached out to us and through like Instagram and sent us a message. Hey man, he probably heard from Burner, and tried some of Burner's cookies. Hey, I wanna make a cookie. And both those guys say, hey, we make, Big Pete's makes the best cookies, so we're not going to partner with anybody else. So and then you kind of just learn from your business deals and stuff on how to like structure them, and it's just kind of amazing to me, like where we started, to have those conversations and have those partners and those celebrity endorsements, and
unbelievable.
It's pretty funny,
But I think it's also it's cool how, again, it was organic, and it was just kind of going to the different High Times Cups and seeing who we vibed with, and like who you I remember one of the first ones that we went to was up in Santa Rosa. Maybe it was the Emerald Cup, and we just went around to businesses. We didn't have a booth, we didn't have anything at that time,
right?
And that was really early days, and we were just meeting with businesses and giving samples and getting cards and just meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where we started that process.
Mm-hmm.
But you always had the audacity too, just to, as well as people coming to us, you would reach out to people, like Protege.
Right.
Do you remember how that connection happened?
Yeah, Protege. Yeah, right. He was. I think we sent him a note on Instagram. Hey, you want to come to the Cookie Factory and check it out? He was in Santa Cruz for a concert at the Catalyst, and we sent him a message. He's like, yeah, sure. Come pick me up downtown, right? And it was like that, and I remember those days when we were walking around and we kind of were just up there, and we had a backpack full of treats, and you had your camera, and it was kind of like we kind of just went up there, and I just remember going, all right, here's what we're going to do, Jake. We're going to go around to the different brands, and we'll do a post featuring these other brands holding our cookies, right? And so then we just went around, and that's what we did.
We use social media a lot to start those relationships.
Absolutely.
And at the festivals, and that was a great way, because you can meet 45 brands in one weekend.
Yeah, well, just like Vegas, right, or the Emerald Cup, you can meet everybody there in one place in 1 or 2 days. So, that's where the events, that's where they bring the real value, is the networking that you get out of it. And that's when we started. Even before I met you, Jake, we would do HempCon.
Right.
HempCon, man. We would just go to San Jose. They'd have HempCon. We'd set up a booth. I think our first booth, one of our clients, the Arc Healing Center, who was one of our first initial clients and big customer in San Jose. They were one of the stores that got kicked out of their spot. They had a beautiful dispensary downtown by the Shark Tank in San Jose, and that building didn't make it through. But they gave us a booth. Our first HempCon, they're like, hey, we can't make it, just take our booth. And so we baked a bunch of treats. We're selling them there, and really back in those days, we would hear people they'd come to us and they'd say, look, like, wow, your treats, they help me. They're, my family member had cancer, and we just heard all these stories about our treats helping people.
That feedback.
And got that feedback from the end
the actual
customer,
the people themselves,
not the dispensary owners, but from the actual customer. So that was fun for us to meet those people and kind of learn about those experiences, and then I remember looking over and saying, hey, we're gonna need a kitchen, because people were coming up to us, stores were coming up to us, everyone, right, and you can kind of just feel that momentum.
That's awesome. And that's something that you can get lost in the process of running the business, and you can forget the fact that you're making people really happy. Like, that's the point.
No doubt.
And that when you actually get to see people happy from the product, or they echo that back to you, that's what it's all about, and I know that is also Big Pete's core, is that joy of sharing cannabis with people. And that kind of that good vibe that you can get to when you got a couple of good edibles going.
And that's how it all started, and you're right, it's great to hear that feedback, and sometimes, right, like in the kitchen, right, in the factory, the workers in the factory making cookies all day, making these treats, putting lots of love into these cookies. They don't always get to hear that, so I always like to go remind everybody about that. Hey, do you know how much people love these cookies out there? Like, and do you know how many people you got stoned today? Like,
For
you know,
sure.
So letting them, the folks in the kitchen doing the hard work, making the butter, making the cookies, you know, putting lots of love into it, right? It's important for them to see that. I almost want to get them out on the road to meet all these people that are enjoying our cookies, because there's nothing like that to really kind of re-energize you.
100%, because you're not just working at a brand, you are, you know, providing people with this experience.
You're getting people. You're in the business of getting people stoned.
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
you know, think about how many people had a better Thanksgiving this year because of the cookies.
Right. No doubt.
100%. You know, have a couple of cookies and just enjoy that whole get together and make the turkey that much more delicious.
Yeah.
You know, that's why it's such a fun industry to be a part of, because if you really enjoy cannabis and you believe in it, and you know, you've seen how it, you know, because that's part of the beauty of, again, back to the authenticity, you guys being a real family business, that, you know, it works because you guys get together as a family, you guys enjoy cannabis as a family.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just having a product that you believe in and you want to share with other people, there's a value in being a part of something like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than just a business. It's a it's a movement, it's a lifestyle, it's a culture.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of culture, what's coming up? Anything interesting on the horizon?
Well, yeah, we're doing a really great event with Airfield Supply in San Jose.
Nice.
They're a dispensary right by the airport in San Jose.
Yeah.
I think Monday next Monday, so December 6th or December 6th, we'll be set up at their shop. So for about 5 days, head over to Airfield Supply next week, because we're going to be baking cookies there in store. We have like kind of a shop, they call it.
Nice.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. But a lot of events at the stores through the holidays. It's a big time of year for us, kind of starting in November and in December. Right, just in any cookie business, I think those are going to be some of your busiest times for the holidays. So you know, we're ramping up, you know, our in-store appearances and you know, things like that. But that's one of the exciting events, which is a 5-day event, Airfield Supply.
Nice, Airfield Supply, and that's a long time relationship too, yeah.
Yep. No, they were one of our, you know, first 10 stores probably in San Jose.
Amazing.
And again, they had to move from their original location, which was on Saratoga Avenue, and ended up getting one of the licenses and moving out by the airport. They have the best location probably in San Jose, right next to the airport, right, where, hey, it's an industrial zone, but it's close to the airport, it's right off the highway.
Back to the Be Real cookies real quick.
Mm-hmm.
How those are one of my favorites. I mean,
those are good.
I
The
love
churro cookies.
The churro cookies are so good though. Yeah. How are those doing? Are those
good?
Yeah.
Good. It's a great partnership, right? It's fun. I mean, you know, Be Real is cool, right? Like, you know, you think, oh, you know, his guys would call you or whatever, and no, it started out where, you know, Be Real called me, and so that's cool, right? And we got to go meet with him and kind of told him, hey, you know, this is how we think we should do this, and he's like, all right, let's go. He's basically said yes to everything we've asked, right? So that's a great partnership. We're super stoked to just work with those guys, and
it's fun when it's easy too.
Yeah, because
both people see the value.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a no-brainer in a way. Like, yeah, let's do it. Green light that. Move forward.
Literally, never said no. It's like, so, and we'll do some more things, right? With COVID and stuff, it's been a little bit more difficult to, like, you know, get them up to Santa Cruz, to the kitchen, things like that. But I mean, he's super down to earth, right? Him and Burner Both those guys are, and that's why they're like you kind of let it off like with the authenticity. That's why like you see a lot of celebrity endorsed products fail. They're authentic. It's not like they're endorsing something. It's like they actually enjoy the product. They're actually in this movement. This is a lifestyle play, for all of us.
100%. And I feel like it's been interesting to see Be Real and them do that podcast as well, because I feel like that gives you so much more insight into, because Be Real is a legend, almost mythical in my mind as far as like its contribution to culture. But then you get to see him interacting more frequently, and it's like the reality of who people are, I think, shines through, and so that's why I wanted you to come on here today so that we could start wrapping on a podcast and sharing a little bit more with the folks, since I know who you are and what you stand for, and you kind of vision for yourself and your family in cannabis, and that's something I admire, and just want to share more of that with the world, because I feel like you guys are a good, the best Santa Cruz representation of cannabis and what cannabis should be, as far as like that kind of a brand, like the Cookies brand, the Dr. Green Thumb. Big Pete's Treats is our version of that, as far as I'm concerned.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we keep our heads down and keep working, and a lot of people say that though, and that's pretty cool to hear. I mean, coming from Santa Cruz, such a cannabis, place. I mean, if you can do it in Santa Cruz, or if you can do it in California, really, then that should translate kind of to the rest of the country.
Yeah. 100%. Well, and it's like, because you really think about it, I feel like there's a dream team. There's really a dream team at Big Pete's, starting with the family, because it's like your dad and you complement each other in interesting ways. And it's cool because the way you guys share power, I feel like, is unique. It's like that could be hard to do, but you guys do it beautifully, and I feel like that's sort of because of the way your personalities are. Like even though he's your dad, you have more of the CEO mind. You're more like planning oriented, as far as, not that Big Pete isn't, but I think he's willing to take a step back and let you do that.
Yeah, he's a little bit more of the fun-loving guy, and I'm a little bit more serious, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I will say, I mean, we have a great relationship, and that goes back to me being a little kid.
Yeah.
Right, and us being like friends, even right, and he was my baseball coach, and all throughout, from the first league to up until high school, right, before high school, and so working as a team like that, right, but it definitely took him time to be able to kind of let off the reins, right? Yeah. So not to say we have a great relationship, but we butt heads sometimes, right? And like nothing like serious, but like we'll get into it, and then we're friends like 20 minutes later or 5 minutes later, we're best friends again, right? So but definitely it's been back I'm talking years ago. An example was like we had our old kind of logo, right, which was our clip art like logo that we got, and we turned, it was a red, gold, and green shirt, and it was a cartoon character version of my dad, and it was hard for us to let go of that, right? But we knew that, hey, this isn't legal. Like once the rules come out, this is going to be considered appealing to kids. Okay. Yeah. It's a cartoon character, and so kind of that whole rebrand was not easy for my dad specifically, and he even talks about that, and for me it was probably a 2-year study of marketing, of like, what the hell are we gonna do,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we have this, and it's scary because it's like you have this logo, people recognize that logo.
Yeah, brand identity.
How are you gonna change that?
Yeah.
And so it was a couple years of studying logo, and when I say studying, I'm talking about just like looking at billboards and going into grocery stores and just
Paying attention.
watching
Yeah.
commercials or whatever, and just kind of looking, and then it kind of clicked one day. Okay, Big Pete's, you know, and we kind of just went with what we got now, and it was and that was like the first kind of he had to let go, and it sales increased right away, right? So it ended up working out great, but he's definitely had to kind of let go of the reins, but I think we do have a good kind of push-pull too,
yeah, because he's got ideas all the time.
He's got ideas, I got ideas, and sometimes he has to kind of rein me in,
Right.
you know, things like that.
Because he's a little more old school in his approach,
Yes.
and you're more new school, and I think that, but you guys have enough of an area of overlap where you can see, like, the other person knows what they're talking about, they just have a different part of it that they see as well.
For sure. So, but those are all things like on a day-to-day, you know, that we work through and we battle, and sometimes kind of like, come on, man, you don't, you know, like, I'm new school, right? We're going new school here. We're going new school. We're leaving the old school.
Yeah.
You know, getting into the new school. It's about technology and you know, just you know.
Exactly, 100%. You have to have new school energy to
Yeah.
make it, I believe.
Yeah.
But I feel like having old school energy that can help to ground you through
Yeah.
that process
For sure.
is super key, but especially when it's somebody who you trust, but even more important than that you actually love and like, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing is, like, you guys obviously have a loving relationship, you respect each other, but you also like each other.
Uh-huh.
Like, seeing Big Pete do something funny will make you laugh harder than anything, right? Like, just enjoying him and who he is, and you know, he's a classic guy. Like, he's a real one of a kind.
100%, right? And he's always been like that. Just like lights up a room. Like growing up, my friends would be like more friends with him.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's just a character.
You know, I'd be like, what? Okay, like growing up. I mean, when they were kids, like when we were 10 years old, you know. So it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, but he's just a character, dude. But having that is, you guys almost have, you know, different roles in a way, whereas you become more of the serious dad of the business in a way, and he's like the fun dad of the business in a way.
Yeah.
But he's your dad.
Right. It's a little backwards from how you would expect a normal kind of father-son.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
For sure. I think for me, maybe that seriousness, right, comes from just sports. You know, kind of playing, you know, I played college baseball. I was always like the captain of the team, you know, at West Valley, at Mid-American Christian. I was
a catcher.
And a catcher. And
leadership position.
And my coaches would always say, oh, yeah, you're a great leader. And I didn't really know, like, you know, they just would say that. And I would more just kind of lead by example, but like also like have to like chew people out sometimes too, you know. And when you're the catcher and the pitcher's, you know, not throwing strikes or whatever, like sometimes you got to go out there and like
see what's up,
you know, or you know, rough them up a little bit in the dugout or something, you know. So I mean, we would do all that. I mean, I got a funny story. One of my best friends, this guy Tyler Derby, big shout out to Tyler Derby. We played at West Valley, and me and him are. He's probably the most competitive person I know, easily.
Nice.
And I'm pretty competitive. And so I'm the catcher. He played all over, but he was a pitcher as well. And one of the days where he was throwing a bullpen, and it was kind of a low key day, right? We were in shorts and this and that, and so he throws one in the dirt. I kind of gave him shit about something, joking with him, and so he throws one in the dirt on purpose. And I said, hey man, you do that again, I'm kicking your ass. I'm coming, you know. Next pitch, sure enough, he spikes it in the dirt again, and we brawled in the bullpen out of practice, right? I mean, we got nothing serious, right? I mean, it was kind of one of those, oh, you hold me back, you know, kind of situations. But that's a classic classic story. And
Yeah.
then, you know, we were best friends, you know, 20 minutes later again, like I said. But it was just a classic kind of funny story that we still, I was just at his wedding, you know, a month or two ago. And
Nice.
of course
That's right.
we somebody brought that up.
Yeah. That's epic.
So that's a little bit more about the serious side, right? And where I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I get that kind of serious, intense.
You want to win.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you got that will to win.
Yeah.
And your dad wants to win too.
Oh, yeah.
But he also is a little more relaxed and has a good time. Like
Mhm.
he's not. You're a little bit more driven.
Yeah, that's it. It's
Competitively.
fair to say.
But I always wonder too if maybe that's because Big Pete is a younger sibling.
Yeah.
You know, older brothers, and so
Mhm.
he kind of
Mhm.
could chill out a little bit, and things were happening around him. Whereas you being
Yeah. The oldest.
oldest, you know, is more like
Uh-huh.
take charge, get shit done.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
You know, probably. But
Yeah.
in just growing up in different times, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
you
way
know,
different
so
times.
he was born in 1960, so you know, as a kid during the 60s and
Oh yeah.
Santa Cruz, you know, so.
The music he was into, and
Right.
yeah, exactly. It's a generational difference for sure. And well, we'll have to get Big Pete in here one of these days and see how that goes.
That'll be great.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So, anything else you want to plug today?
No, man, you know, just I think everybody listening knows where to find us, you know, bigpetestreets.com.
That's right.
You know, but no, just wanted to kind of come on here and talk with you, Jake. You know, thanks for having me. It's been super fun. I look forward to doing more of this, and we've been talking about it for years, so it's been fun.
Right on. Oh yeah, I'm stoked. Just like the coffee shop, pretty much. You know,
Yeah.
just coming up with ideas and you know having a dialogue. So, thanks so much. And thank you all for listening. This has been another episode of Everything Jake, where I get to talk about all the things that I love and that make me who I am. Big Pete's Treats is a big part of that. And shout out to Guido's Tacos. Best tacos you could ever possibly desire to eat. So check them out on Instagram. Is it Guido's Tacos?
Guido's Taco Truck.
Guido's Taco Truck. WEDOS. Guido.
Guido's Food Truck.
Guido's Food Truck. Best tacos, Guido's Food Truck.
You got it.
So once again, thanks to Big Pete's Treats and Pete Jr. here. Until next time, Jake J. Thomas. Peace.
Yeah.